guys, so this is what if Deku was Chronicle. Now, or have the powers of Chronicle. Now, if you don't know what Chronicle is, it's actually a really, really good show. And basically, take it slowly. I watched this movie about 4 times, including watching a review of it on YouTube a couple minutes ago. And I just wanted to do this what if because it sounded really good, and also I already seen the movie like a bunch of times. And I already see this could be a really good movie. I mean, a really good what if. Now, this what if probably will only stretch to 6 episodes because I might kill off Deku at part 6. But if you don't want that to happen, I probably make Deku like become like a fugitive or something. I don't know. But I'm gonna end the series off at part 6. So let's get into it. Now, this is what if Deku was Chronicle or had the powers of Chronicle part 1. Now, guys, I don't know if I'm positive that I'm going to be killing off Deku or ending this off at part 6. Maybe I might be ending it off at like something later on or never ending it, but I don't know yet. So, yeah, let's see what this goes. And, yeah, let's get started. Now, they explain if you haven't seen Chronicle, it's a movie that is pretty good. The first time I ever saw it, I'm pretty sure I was like 9 or 10, probably 10, and I was in I think, library, and I picked up a movie, Chronicle. Now, at that point, I didn't know what Chronicle was, so I didn't know what Chronicle was. All I saw was flying people on the cover of it and using telekinesis in the back. So that was the first movie that actually made me interested in, superpowered TV shows and movies and supernatural stuff, like, fan fiction. So, yeah. So that was the first movie that actually, you know, I actually liked about superheroes. Stuff like that, other than, the movies before the MCU. So, yeah. So, basically, Deku will be, will be basically like the characters of Chronicle, but mainly like one of the main characters of Chronicle. And I'm pretty sure, I don't remember his name. I think his name was Eddie or like Andrew. Like he was probably the main character because he had the most screen time, and we learned the most about him in the beginning and also in the ending of the movie. Now, spoiler alerts: Andrew, or the main character, basically he dies. He gets impaled by his cousin slash best friend because he goes off the rails and uses his telekinesis to try to destroy the world. Not destroy the world, like bring down buildings in the city, and basically the way he got that because his father was abusive, and also his mother was basically sick. And then when he got in trouble, basically getting blown up in like a gas station thing, he was blown up in a gas station thing, but it was when he was robbing gas stations and people with his telekinesis because he was desperate because his father couldn't beg the IRS or like I don't know the government for like help fees for his mother to save her or like, get her medication. So he took drastic measures in his own hands and put on a fireman's suit, basically hiding his identity, and going around robbing banks. Robbing gas stations. So he robbed the gas station, but somebody tried to shoot him, and he redirected the gun away from him with ease, but the gun hit the gas tank at the gas station and blew it up. And then at that point, when he was in the doctor's bed or like in the hospital, basically his father started crying, but also saying that it was his fault because if he wasn't in the hospital, he would have time to get the medication for his mom because his mom died near the end of the movie. So basically, he straight up just stopped his father because his father was about to hit him in his sleep, and then just blew a huge hole in the building, killing his dad. Not really killing his dad, like hurting his dad, but like his best friend, cousin best friend. Because I don't know their powers, but they're connected some way. If one of them used their powers too much, like to destroy a building, or to move a car, or to some sort of, pull a kid's teeth out, that actually happened in the TV show. The movie, not a TV show. There wasn't even a sequel of it, but I actually wanted to see a remake of it. That's the closest we're going to get to a sequel, and I want a sequel. But yeah. So basically, let me just explain, go to the beginning before I get into the what if, so you can understand about Chronicle. Basically, at the beginning of the show, at the beginning of at the movie, I mean, basically, we see Andrew is a very abused kid. That his father hits on him and is very abusing and possessive, and his mother is basically really sick. Well, not really sick, just she needs medication to stay alive or something. So, basically, we're not really explaining what her disease is. Don't know if she has cancer or something, but yeah. So we're not really explaining that. But the only big thing we're not even explaining to or how they got their powers was when we'll just skip past everything else because basically Andrew's cousin, aka his best friend, he basically looks out for Andrew, but also at first he says later on in the show he says at first Andrew was really hard to connect with because he was abused, but also not he didn't say that because he was abused. I'm just saying that because that's probably why he was so hard to connect with because his mother is in the hospital and his father hits on him and stuff like that. But basically, this movie is not recorded like in normal movies. It's actually recorded through TV, through what was it? Through pretty much cameras and pretty much camera phones. Basically, seen through the eyes or through the camera lens of humanity. Basically, Andrew basically carries around a camera documenting his life. So if his father ever went too far, he could have proof to put his father in jail. So that's basically Andrew's like kind of thing. And basically, Andrew basically goes to a party, started recording stuff, but he gets beaten up because he records one of the girls and one of the girl's boyfriends say recorded my girl and pretty much beats him up. Basically, you skip later on in the movie, they find a crystal in like a deep hole near the party. They go into it and they get powers somehow. And basically, the camera ends off there, and we get skipped back about weeks later, and we see that they have some sort of telekinesis, and they can also use the telekinesis as some sort of invulnerability, making the telekinesis be able to shield them like force fields. So basically, I'm sorry guys. So basically, they get their powers, and they pretty much, to be short, the rest of the movie, the middle of the movie, they basically just discover their powers. Andrew becomes a little bit more violent with his powers, and eventually almost kills a man by trying to make him swerve away from the car because the car was getting tailed by the man. Basically, Andrew does, destroy the car or like push the man off the road into like a pond. Basically, the man almost dies, and Andrew's best friend or cousin makes rules about their powers because their powers are getting too powerful, and they're starting to hurt people easily. So basically, in the movie, Andrew gets so powerful that he can able to almost destroy buildings, but he gets stopped by his cousin by him killing him, seeing that it was the only way because Andrew was too far gone, and he wasn't listening to anybody. So that's basically what happened to Chronicle, and I suggest watching the movie yourself if you have a movie channel and you can find it. It came out in like 2000 or something, and it's probably like 2014 or 2016 probably. But yeah, so yeah, so that's basically Chronicle in 9 minutes. But yeah, let's just skip into the what if already because you already know the concept of Chronicle about three kids, teenage kids getting powers. Also, I forgot. One of the kids are black and they get straight up just clocked in the middle of the movie by lightning. And I actually did not like. Why did they have to kill him off like that? But yeah, basically Andrew accidentally killed the guy because like they were in the sky in the clouds, and Andrew tried to, pretty much what you call it, tried to talk to Andrew, but Andrew got too frustrated and summoned lightning or like took control of lightning with his telekinesis and like striked it or smited the like I don't know his name. I think his name was like Jeffrey. He was like the popular kid, aka class president, aka he was like the nice popular kid. But yeah. So let's just skip off of this whole entire thing, guys. And basically just get into the what if. Because sorry for wasting your 10 minutes. Now let's get straight into it. Now basically, we start our story off with Deku. Deku will be about, let's say, you know what? Deku just be born. And Deku's gonna be treated kind of the same, but a lot more worse. Basically, Deku's still born quirkless, but at this point, Deku's mother was in a bad accident, and basically she was under some, you know, pretty much, what was it, medication that cost a lot of money. But his father so far was able to get it because Deku's father was a fireman. But eventually, Deku's father couldn't, pretty much keep it together, and his father became abusive, started to hit on Deku, and then after Deku was born and was diagnosed quirkless, Deku's father treated him like nothing. At this point, Deku was treated like a house pet, or like, well, a stranger in his own house. Deku's father pretty much barely looked at Deku, barely talked to Deku, and the only way he talked to Deku was in the morning when he was leaving to school, or when he was about to beat Deku for some selfish reason. So Deku automatically hated his father growing up. And we skip about years after this torment after Deku's father beating on him and basically treating him like nothing, and Deku's about 16 at this point. When Deku starts getting bullied by Bakugo, that basically triggers Deku, but Deku hasn't acted on it at all. Now Deku was already from it because he was getting bullied at school and was getting bullied at home and being treated like nothing at both, schools. Basically, Deku pretty much is, Deku starts recording, basically starts recording his life and seeing that he can get some, if his father ever goes too far, he can put him in jail by, you know, having enough recorded evidence to put him in jail about abusive and being, basically assaulting Deku for no reason. Because sometimes it's just stupid reasons, like if Deku left the toilet seat up, or if Deku didn't do his homework, or if Deku, if Deku got in trouble in school, his father would just beat the snot out of him for the smallest things ever, or even not for no reason at all, just walking in his room and just beating him for no reason. So basically, Deku would be about, let's say, yeah, Deku's about 16 at this point, and Deku's been through a lot of abuse and everything. Deku mainly can only get away from it by visiting his mother at the hospital or at her house, basically taking her out on dinner or like spending time with her, like, mother to son, activities. Deku eventually gets to a point when he is almost so sad that he's about to kill himself, but he gets a call from his best friend at school, aka this best friend say, you know what, Deku's best friend would be Zero, whatever, the tape quirk guy. He'd be at the same school as Deku. Basically, the tape quirk guy calls Deku, and Deku goes over to the party, basically taking his camera with him. Basically, everything that happened in the movie that I just explained happens in the party. Deku gets bullied on at the party. Bakugo actually is dating Ochaku in this what if. It's at their school, because Ochaku's at the school as well. And basically, Bakugo, pretty much, and basically, it's a little bit of more lore behind Bakugo dating Ochaku, because Deku started dating Ochaku in about, when Deku was about 15. He started dating Ochaku, but Ochaku pretty much, what was it, basically, didn't cheat on Deku. She broke up with Deku, and like 5 weeks later, she started dating Bakugo. So that was basically how it was. And basically, Deku was super angry about this, but he didn't say anything because he knew that Bakugo was going to beat him up. Or maybe Ochaku would. So Deku was, pretty much treated like nothing. Now Deku had the same haircut as this, like having it swooped up, like in like the back, like a type of Vegeta type of haircut. Basically, Deku is taken in the back when one of Deku's other quirkless friends, because there's about two quirkless kids in their whole entire school, and this quirkless kid would be, let's say, looking exactly like Deku, just with black hair and without freckles and with what was it, blue eyes, and also he's be about 2 inches taller than Deku. So basically, he takes Deku down to a hole that he found outside of the outskirts of the building. Deku pretty much Deku is taken there, and basically they go down into the hole. Deku goes into the hole, and basically they go in there, and Deku eventually gets into there, and the pretty much wave of energy. They're just looking around it, and they see a huge crystal glowing. Deku touches the crystal, and the crystal starts making everything around them float, including the dust and the rubble around them. And they all look at each other, and their nose start bleeding. Now, basically, there's only two people in there. They're what was it? Both of them being quirkless. They basically passed out, and Deku's best friend, aka Zero, was outside, pretty much having his phone out, recording everything from like a distance, not really seeing anything differently, just seeing a bright light and hearing two bodies collapsing. Pretty much Zero takes out his tape quirk and tapes both of them back out of the hole and gets them to safety. And then we skip about 2 months later when the 10-month art training starts. Deku, we skip about 2 months later, and we see that Deku and his other quirkless friend are basically playing ball in the sky, basically flying. Deku pretty much flies down, explaining what was it, to the pretty much to himself in third person, saying that after the 2 months that we were out of commission, we started developing more powers and abilities, aka telekinesis, and we can use it in so many ways, like protection or flight, or just straight up enhancing our powers using telekinesis on our bodies. Basically, Deku saw this as an opportunity to become a hero, and Deku's best friend, Corp's best friend, actually didn't want to become a hero. He wanted to basically explore the world, go to Japan and fly to there, go around the world, basically, getting artifacts and stuff like that. So when the whole entire 10-month, after the whole entire 10-month arc train starts beginning, we skip about a couple of events later. Deku develops his powers, and over the weeks, Deku's abilities start to get so strong, in fact, that Deku starts to be able to pull off insane feats. Deku's best friend, they're connected some way. If Deku over exhausts himself, Deku's friend gets a nosebleed or even passes out. And that doesn't really cause any permanent damage. So they try to do anything too complicated, like move a bus while driving it with their telekinesis, or like what's it called, or like stopping a tsunami or something. Like something that's super complicated that would need certain points of telekinesis at all angles, or basically strain their bodies. But over the 10-month art training, their bodies started to become stronger, and their power started to become way too much for them to handle. It became so dangerous to them. In fact, they could basically destroy the. Basically, at this point, near part 6, Deku's powers or his friend's powers would get so strong, in fact, that it will be able to basically pull off insane feats like move the Earth a couple thousand feet, or maybe even, move the sun, or maybe pretty much move the Earth and the sun, or move the Earth to a point of access, or something like that. So basically, Deku would be able to control the Earth in some sort of way, moving the Earth with his telekinesis. Now, Deku was incredibly strong, but he didn't know this yet. He just pulled off, really easy feats like pushing full grown man like feet away, or like pulling out kids' teeth. And basically, this is Deku when he got too angry. Mostly, this is what happened. Now we skip about a couple months before the 10-month art train is ending, and Deku's friend says he's going on vacation and he's going to explore the world. Deku says, good for you, and basically, he says goodbye to his friend. His friend flies off, and this friend will be named, let's say, with a J or something like Jacob, or, yeah, Jacob. So basically, he leaves and flies off to Japan. I mean, he's already in Japan. He flies off to multiple other countries, like Europe, and pretty much Italy, and France, and stuff like that, and explores every country in the world, including Africa. And basically, Deku basically starts training himself stronger and stronger, and basically cleans up Deku Beach in a matter of weeks after his friend leaves. So Deku pretty much trains his body more and more, and finds out that his power is kind of like a quirk. It's a muscle that Deku needs to train with every day to get stronger and stronger. And Deku trains with that every day. Eventually, Deku finds out that if he gets his power too strong, Deku, if he uses his powers too much, or uses his powers in too much of a complicated way, Deku starts getting nosebleeds as well. But Deku starts passing by all those, backdraws, and becomes super OP, but too angry for his own good, basically becoming a danger to everybody around him. Since this wasn't a quirk, most pro heroes couldn't possibly really take on Deku because this wasn't a quirk. I mean, Eraserhead's quirk would basically be, well, useless towards Deku. Basically, Deku starts, training more and more, and eventually Deku sees that this is a big opportunity to basically become a pro hero. Deku signs up for the entrance exams, like in original canon, but when Deku comes back home, because Deku was like spending a lot of time at Deku Beach, Deku's father said, "You're just hiding something from me." Basically, Deku's father is trying, pretty much finding out his camera, looking at the price of his camera, saying that you're using all this money to buy a camera, but you can't even buy your mom's medication. Basically, hitting on Deku over and over again, and bouncing on Deku. But Deku has enough of it, and pushes his father off of him, pushing him against the wall, and says, "I can crush you whenever I want to." Basically, Deku's father trying to shoot fire at Deku, but Deku closes his mouth and says, sorry, and basically implodes his father's head, killing him. Deku says, "I'm not really sorry though," and basically drags his father's dead corpse in a fire and burns everything, and also picks up all the blood with his telekinesis and evaporates it, basically putting it in the air of the basement that they were fighting in. Deku, after that, pretty much moves away from this house and actually burns down the house, basically putting his dad's dead burnt corpse in the body in the basically in the bottom of the basement, basically burning down the house. Deku flies off and pretty much makes himself a home, making a huge like wooden cabin by himself using his telekinesis, making himself plumbing and everything, making a huge mansion type of wooden cabin about, let's say, about 60 miles away from Yue in the forest. Basically, Deku having his own house to himself, and Deku basically having a mechanical electricity plug, or like electricity coming towards him, using his telekinesis to constantly rail up that, dial to make the electricity flow through his house. And basically, Deku's power is also fueled by stolen solar radiation panels that Deku had. So yeah, so basically Deku goes to, Yue, doing the entrance exams, and walks in the Yue. Now, basically, at this point, Deku was walking into Yue, but he bumps into Bakugo. Bakugo says, "Why are you here, you quirkless nerd?" And basically pushes Deku and says, "You better leave now, before I blow you up." And Deku says, "Try." And Bakugo tries to throw an explosion, but Deku stops his hand and stops his sweat glands from going anywhere. And basically pushes Bakugo down to the ground slower and slower, basically almost about to break Bakugo's bones. But Ochaku pretty much walks up and says, hey Deku, hey Bakugo," basically changing tones and voice when she looks at Deku or looks at Bakugo. Now Deku pretty much lets go of Bakugo and walks off. Bakugo says, "We're not done yet, nerd." Deku says, "I think we are, jerk." Bakugo says, "What do you call me?" And Deku had enough of it and pretty much pushes Bakugo into the wall, knocking him out. Deku says, "We're done here." If you ever touch me again, I'll kill you. And Deku walks off. Deku walks off into the entrance exam. So basically, Ochaku sees Deku and says, "What was that about? I thought you were quirkless." And Deku says, "I was, but now I have the power to do whatever I want." And basically, Deku says, "Get off of me." Because at this point, Ochaku was like grabbing Deku by the collar, saying, "Why are you doing that?" And Deku basically pushes back Ochaku off of her lightly. Off of him lightly with his telekinesis, like a little bit. Basically says to stay away from me, or else I'll kill you too. Basically, Deku walks off, and basically they get started. The entrance exams were pretty easy for Deku, and Deku just started flying around, destroying bots and robots with ease, just flying past them, making them blow up. Deku eventually gets this here point robot, and he doesn't run away. He says, "I want to see if I can do this." Basically, Deku takes a stance and pushes the zero point robot so far that it makes it almost land out of the fake city. And Deku destroys the zero point robot in one foul swoop. Basically, the pro heroes, or the people that were watching everything, basically said, "That's a very interesting quirk. I never seen somebody with such a strong telekinesis quirk." Basically, Deku at this point, Deku at this point actually did get into gambling actually, and got a lot of money. So Deku put most of his money into his house getting electricity, but also put most of the money in his mother's medication. And was about to let his mother live with him in his cabin, but Deku's mother basically wanted to stay in her house. So Deku got enough money to buy his mom enough medication to last a lifetime, but also buy a whole entire mansion. Now at this point, Deku already left the entrance exams after the alarm went off, or like the beacon went off, and basically Deku, you know, goes to his house, basically buying a house for his mom, and buying a penthouse for his mom, a penthouse for his mom, a pretty big penthouse of that in the middle of Japan, and basically buys her a bunch of medication and like a whole entire bank account for her own money. And Ochaku is very grateful for Deku, but Ochaku is pretty much afraid because the police, saw Deku's house burn down, and Deku pretty much put out a huge act saying that his father used his quirk and it blew up the house, basically using it near the gas pipe at the bottom of the basement. Basically, Deku fake crying and saying that blah blah blah. That basically Deku just faking and duking the cops into thinking that would happen. So the cops cut up the investigation there. Basically, Deku, Deku basically using his telekinesis in the house. While none of the police know. Basically, Deku getting rid of any evidence that could lead to him. So Deku basically, taking all that, alcohol that was on the floor, basically making it not really invisible, but also Deku using a little bit of telekinesis to make the building collapse a little bit, making them, demolition it all and destroy the house. So Deku's mother was still, sad about her husband dying, but still, Deku told his mother about the whole entire abusive stuff. So Inko was a little bit more happy that he was dead, but not really because he didn't want him to die, but she didn't like how he was hitting on her son. So Deku basically goes back at his cabin after his mom is all situated and ready for, to live life or to have a nice life without being in the hospital of all times. And actually having, his number speed dialed on his mother's phone. So Deku basically lives in the mansion for about a couple days when he gets a note from UA that he got in. Deku gets into UA and walks into Class 1A, walking in there, pretty swaggerlicious. Like, Deku has some swagger on. Now, Deku pretty much walks in there, and Deku has, like, a cut of some sort. It's like, he's like, what was it? The sides of his hair, like, right here, are, like, faded, or, like, faded down. So they're like, cut down and faded. So Deku walks in the, Class 1A, and sits down about, let's say, 2 rows, ahead, 2 rows behind Ochaku and Bakugo, basically having clear sights at them. Now, basically, Deku did not see Ochaku when he stopped the robot, so he never really intended to save her. Ochaku said, "So why didn't you? So you saved me back there?" And Deku said, "No, I didn't." Basically, Ochaku saying, "Yes, you did. You stopped the 0 point robot from stepping on me." And Deku said, "Oh, that was you. I had no intention of saving you. Honestly, I would let it kill you." Basically, everybody in the class actually did hear this and said, "Wow, this guy's kind of a jerk." And Deku basically says, "Who said that?" And basically, what happened is, Mineta said that. I think Mineta said that, and also Sugar Rush said that. Basically, Deku taking out, pretty much making their, what was it, their molars basically go deeper into their, like, gums, making them bleed from the mouth. And Deku not really, showing any signs of him using a quirk. Now, pretty much Azawa walks in the class. Azawa pretty much wakes up from his nap in the yellow, pretty much sleeping bag, and looks at everybody saying that, time to get ready because we're going to do a quirk assessments. Everybody gets told to go outside, and Deku is told to go outside because he got the highest score in the quirk assessments. Bakugo basically is pretty angry at this, but Ochaku says, just, calm down. Deku pretty much grabs the ball and chucks it about, let's say, out of the atmosphere. Deku throws the ball out of the atmosphere with his telekinesis. Basically gets a pretty good score. And, what was it? Oh, what was the thing? Azawa is pretty impressed by this. Azawa basically tells Deku to go to the next, everybody to go to the next thing. And for the sand pit or the sand jump, Deku obviously aces it, flying over it. For the, what was it? For the race, Deku gets a pretty good score, getting 4th place, using telekinesis to propel himself forward as he runs. And for the quick test strength, Deku gets 1st place. So, in all honesty, I think Deku gets about 2nd place. And Todoroki gets 1st place. So, basically, everybody else gets, pretty good scores. And, no, yeah, Deku and Todoroki are kind of tied. And basically, they do a tiebreaker to make Deku and let's see if they're better than each other. Basically, them having a little bit of a kind of a duel, per se. Pretty much as I was saying, the first one they get them on their feet, or they get the other opponent off their feet, wins. Basically, making them fight. Deku uses telekinesis to basically push Todoroki down to the ground, like seconds before the match starts, like more than seconds after the match starts. Basically, not having Todoroki to have any time to prepare himself. So Deku basically takes this Todoroki out pretty quickly without any effort. And Deku saying that was some more surprising than I thought. I thought you were supposed to be strong. You're in Endeavor Zone, aren't you? And Todoroki gets super angry, shooting an ice beam or ice shards at Deku, like they can stab into Deku's body and possibly kill him. Deku stops them and redirects him towards Todoroki. And Azawa sees that Deku's about to stab Todoroki. But Azawa uses his quirk on Deku, but he sees that it's not doing anything because this isn't a quirk. Deku's having some sort of supernatural ability that is basically unimaginable what it can possibly do. So Deku's about to shoot it at Todoroki. Bakugo says, "Leave him alone, nerd." And Deku says, "Shut up," and pretty much pulls out about 5 of Bakugo's teeth, making Bakugo bleed from the mouth, and pushing Bakugo into a wall, saying, "I'm about to kill you right now." Basically, grabbing Bakugo by the head, saying, "Stand still." And Zao wraps up Deku in his things, and Deku basically disintegrates them, pretty much controlling them on a molecular structure, making them fade away off of Deku. Deku says, "Don't touch me again." And basically, Zao says, "I'll let you slide this time, but if you ever do anything like that again, I'll expel you. You got me, kid?" And Deku says, "Whatever." And basically walks off. Zao says, "Don't understand. It's obviously a quirk, but how could I not erase it?" Eraser head started to pretty much, starting to complicate this and says, "How could I not use my quirk on him? Did he have some sort of illusion quirk? Was he impervious to quirk erasing quirks?" Now Deku basically leaves school. Basically, Ochaku walking over to Deku and saying that, "What was that about? You said you were about to kill Bakugo." Basically, Bakugo coming up behind Ochaku and basically looking at looking at Deku, basically saying, "What was that about?" Deku starts explaining that you're all scum to me, and that if you ever touch me again, I'll kill you. Bakugo says, "We'll see about that," and Deku says, "Well, we'll see." Basically, with Deku taking Bakugo and putting him up into the air and pushing Deku into a tree, knocking his lights out. I mean, Bakugo, knocking his lights out. Deku says to Deku says to stay to yourself, Ochaku, and stay out of this. Basically, Ochaku fading and knocking out because Deku uses telekinesis to grab a part of her brain and basically almost causing brain damage, but not enough to actually do actual permanent brain damage on Ochaku. So basically, Deku, ends it there. Basically, just flies off to his cabin and locks all the doors, basically going to sleep. Now I'm going to leave it off here, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys want part 2. And see you guys later. Bye. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. But also, guys, I will be uploading 2 new what ifs later on this week. Or maybe tomorrow. Or maybe later today. Basically, the what is going to be. What if Deku was the Scorpius Rex? And also, what if Deku was Mega Godzilla? So yeah. See you guys later. Bye. As always, guys, have a blessed day.